I guess I got to repeat that because the mic was not on. Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. I mean, you all, the whole one of you. So hopefully YouTube will be letting people know that we're live, so more of our subscribers could find out that we have a session that they can ask their questions, and I will do my best to respond to them. Now, today I want to talk to you about how you can simply help your brain to follow its default setting and doing its job in eliminating intrusive thoughts rather than you getting engaged with it and seeing it continued, that what is not in line with your values continue in the form of I gotta shut this off. So it's, Mhm. Sorry about that. So in the form of intrusive thoughts, that it would be able to, what's going on? Why is it still quiet? All right, let's do this. All right, let's start again. Today I want to talk to you about the fact that you get intrusive thoughts in your mind and it continues haunting you there and continues its presence, and how we can help the brain to find its default setting and function as it is designed to shut down the intrusive thoughts. We will hopefully go into describing the mechanism of what's involved in dissipating or decimating the intrusive thoughts that are not in line with your values. And then we discuss about how we can actually help the brain to rewire itself, what kind of a behavior or interaction we need to have with the brain to help it, to teach it to get back to its regular function, which would be not to continue this looping intrusive thoughts, whatever thought it may be that is not in line with your values. So, number one thing is to realize what is it and how is it that we don't have these intrusive thoughts presenting themselves throughout the day when we are not in the glitch of OCD. You see, the brain's job, like any other organs of our body, is something specific. Like your kidneys filter your blood, your liver detoxifies and creates the enzyme that is needed for the well functioning of your body, and the rest of it. The brain's job is to make thoughts. Brain, unlike what most people think, is not intelligent. There is no intelligence center in the brain. As Dr. Speary and Dr. Penfield of Montreal in the 1930s and 1960s, I'm not sure which, they have operated on the brain maybe thousands of times, if not more. And as you know, when you break into the skull of the brain, there are no nerve endings to feel pain. So often the patients are awake during the operation in order to guide the surgeon if the surgeon is reaching its targets and it's being guided and getting data and information while it's doing its experiment. So in the many of the investigative operations that Dr. Speary and Dr. Penfield, and later on we may talk about, I have a video on Dr. Owens and Dr. Leibotz's experiments as well. But in many of the operations that these two neurosurgeons have done, they have never been able to localize intelligence center. They could localize sight center, occipital point, they stimulate something and the patient sees certain kind of a light, and they could localize sight center, or the speech center, they would stimulate part of the brain and the patient would make some sound through his using his tongue, and that represents a location for a for speech center or motoring center. They could help or stimulate certain part of the brain, and a limb would hopefully. All right, that one moment, please. I put a pause in here. I'll be right back. One moment. All right, sorry about that. As I was saying that through their experiments, they were able to localize many different function of the brains in the brain, but they were never able to localize compassionate center or political center or math center, signifying that there is no intelligence center in the brain. Hence, therefore, brain is not center of intelligence. Brain is not intelligent. It's a machine. It's an organ that its job is to make thoughts. Now, it makes 80, 90,000 thoughts a day, 80, 90,000 thoughts a day. And many of these thoughts, you don't even notice them. Why? Because in midbrain basal ganglia, there is a lever called caudate nucleus, among other things. Three centers: goal finding center, reward center, habit center, in the striatum. But there's also a lever called caudate nucleus. Its job is to decimate or dissipate, delete, let go the thoughts that are not useful to you, they're not in line with your values, and they're intrusive, so to speak. But when caudate nucleus malfunctions, it doesn't do its job right. So when an intrusive thought of some nature that is not in line with your values, whether it's about anything, any topic, sexuality, orientation, or whatever else it may be, when it shows up, the caudate nucleus's job, if it's not functioning well, would not be done properly. Therefore, the thoughts, the intrusive thoughts, don't disappear. They linger. And since it lingers, you wonder, because it's not going away and it's taking your attention and it's hovering there, you feel there must be a meaning to it. But there is no meaning to it. It just means the function that caudate nucleus is designed to do is not being performed. And prefrontal cortex gives it a certain kind of a place to make it look like as it has a purpose to be there. And by letting it stay in that scene, let's say, screen of your head, and takes your attention, you wonder and you try to debate with it, trying to convince the brain that this is not in line with your values and you do not agree with this specific label or specific comment or suggestion of the brain. And then you rise trying to convince an organ. Now listen to this. You're trying to convince an organ, thinking that the organ, brain, is above you. And you're supposed to get permission in order to clarify your orientation or whatever this particular intrusive thoughts is all about, to get it cleared out, like if you need a permission, rather than simply going about your business and with your lack of attention to the brain, showing the brain that it cannot take your attention by bringing about topics that are not in line with your values, are not of interest to you. Now, why is it that when you do actually debate with your brain seems to get more encouraged to continue this line of thoughts and continue making and allowing or creating and having it stay, using the malfunction of the caudate nucleus, having these thoughts remain in the prefrontal cortex and take your attention? The reason for that is your behavior. Just like anything else in this world that you cannot control, people's behavior or uttering or opinion or actions towards you, but you can control your reaction towards other people's suggestion, opinions, and actions towards you. For the same token, you cannot control the brain from making thoughts. Its job is to make thoughts, and it doesn't have the capacity or intelligence to know what thoughts should or should make. It just makes thoughts based on all these information that exists out there, and it's been informed of such things, lifestyles, food, vacations, activities, sports, whatever is out there, it has come to its attention and it's an inventory of data, and it uses that to make thoughts. But because it has no understanding about the quality of thoughts, it puts out whatever it puts out. And you think now that you have to get the brain to delete these on its own, or there is a formula to this, other than your behavior toward this behavior of the brain is the key. In other words, if you interact with the brain about its creation, the thought, it encourages the brain to continue this. But if you don't interact with it and don't exchange energy and go about your business, the brain gets a different reaction, gets a different signal. Now, let me talk about this a little bit further. In short, I have other videos that have discussed this in more detail, but in short, the brain needs to be told what to do. But it's not intelligent to understand your request. So you deal with it as you would deal with a crazy person, or a person who is really not prepared to understand logic or reasoning or your preference and respecting that. Instead, it's looking for a conclusion. It doesn't care about what you tell it, what reasoning, what cognitive reasoning you come up with. It's looking for its conclusion, like a child who's having temper tantrum, and unless it gets the candy, unless it gets a toy, unless it gets what satisfies it, it's still going to cry and make scene. The brain also is not going to listen to your logic and your truth or your facts. It's just going to ask for conclusion. It needs conclusion to shut up. So you give it that conclusion. In many instances, when you talk to experts in the field, psychotherapists and psychologists, and they go about helping you with ERP or CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, what they're trying to do is trying to give the brain a conclusion. You see, before we go further, let me explain to you what is thinking and how can you stop thinking. When somebody asks you, what is your name? Let's say in my case, I say Mehran. That's not thinking. That's an information that is available instinctively. I can simply say Mehran. That's my name. Where you come from? Vancouver. That's where I am. These are not thinking. But if somebody asks me, or you ask yourself, you're a pilot of an aircraft, it's got 2 engines, each engine has so many thousands of horsepower, it's got 128 seats, it's got so many passengers have bought ticket and they're present, the luggage weight is this, and so much fuel is now pumped in. How long would it take for this plane to fly from Vancouver to Japan? Now, from the time you ask this question until the time you calculate and trying to figure out with the information you have, how long it takes for this aircraft to fly to Japan, that time is involved thinking. Now, the brain stops this thinking, this figuring out, when you come to a conclusion. When you solve these formulas and you come to a conclusion that takes 22 hours, thinking stops because you got a conclusion, you got to the answer. There are other ways that you can stop thinking by calculating as you did, but you don't come to any understanding, you don't come to a conclusion and answer because you simply don't know how. You don't know the formula, you can't figure it out, so you say, I don't know. When you say, I don't know, that's a conclusion again to the brain. Thinking stops. And another way to stop thinking is when you simply hear the question And then you say right away, I don't know, and I don't want to know. Meaning you refuse to go calculating. So you give a mandate, a conclusion to the brain that I don't know and I don't want to know. So it stops thinking. The calculation, figuring out process stops. Now, in all these three episodes or examples, you notice that the brain stopped thinking, as we discussed, because you gave it a conclusion. Either you came up with the answer, a calculation, figuring out thing, stop thinking, or you calculated, you came up with no answer, and you said, I don't know, brain stopped thinking, or you simply, right from the beginning, you said, I don't know, and I don't want to know. I don't care. Then the brain has no mandate to do anything and stops thinking. So in all three cases, it needed a conclusion. In the case of OCD and subsets of OCD, such as HOCD, when the brain comes up with all these intrusive thoughts of all kinds, you need to, ERP, you need to give it a conclusion, an acceptance. Now, the acceptance does not mean that you accept what the brain is suggesting to you, but you accept that such things can exist and the brain is free to think what it does. Not that you agree with what the brain is suggesting about your inclination or whatever it is that the topic may be, but you're announcing to the brain that, okay, you're free to think that way, but I am not involved in this. In other words, it calls you certain gender that you're not. You say, okay, yeah, you're right. Just like you would treat someone who is not understanding any logic and is not prepared to have a civilized dialogue and look for what your preference is and respect that, what do you do at the end? We say, okay, whatever, and you move on. So this okay, whatever shuts the person down. Like if somebody tells me in the street, hey, you're an asshole, I say, oh, thank you. Well, he says, okay, I just told him an asshole and there's nothing coming back. And he agrees with me. So they don't have anything else to continue. And that episode shuts down. The activity of that crazy person or obnoxious person or that third person in the street stops because I did not give it energy. So there's nothing for it to come back. Same thing with the brain. When it says, for example, you're gay, and if you're not gay, or if you're gay and the brain says you're heterosexual, and if you're not heterosexual, let's say, when you say, okay, let's take one example so we won't be confused. Let's say you're heterosexual and your brain suggests something else, something other than heterosexual. And if you start explaining to the brain, there's no conclusion here. The brain wants to fight with it and say, look, I am actually right. I am you. I am better than you. I am the brain. I'm the smart and all these things, and continues that. So it's looking for a conclusion. And your purpose is to shut it down so you can do your business and not be disturbed by things that is not in line with your value and you have no interest in it. Instead of arguing with it to convince it, brain cannot be convinced because it's dumb, it's stupid. It's not following a logic or anything. It just says what it does because of its way of having been put together and being in a malfunction stage. So what do? It says, you're gay. Say, yeah, right. It says, oh, that guy is really hot, isn't it? Oh, yeah, I just want to suck him up. You, yeah, really good looking. Brain no longer sees a resistance. The acceptance that they're talking about is in this context, not that you accept what the brain is suggesting is actually what you are interested or you are that. Giving the brain conclusion is the ERP that you're doing to yourself. So, for example, if I have certain kind of a phobia, OCD phobia, it works the same way, whether it's of sexual orientation or whether it's another kind of a subset of OCD, what kind it may be, it works the same way. Let's say, whatever the brain suggests in a certain topic, you just allow it to make its suggestions stick. and you go about your own business. Now, when you look at Dr. Schwartz's 4-step in the OCD, which has the physical rituals, there's an obsession, there's a compulsion, and the compulsion is involving a physical ritual. The 4 steps is relabel, reframe, refocus, and revalue. All of that we explained in a different video. I don't want to take up your time here, but they're all recognizing what it is and then not interacting with the brain in an argument. You recognize it, that this is not something that of your interest, and then you interpret it for yourself, and then you refocus to something positive, and you go on about your business, and your brain eventually revalues the whole situation, and brain learns that these sort of uttering secretions, suggestions will not take your attention. In the case of these intrusive thoughts, giving the brain that conclusion that it's seeking for shuts it down because it got a conclusion, it got an acceptance. Look, in life, whatever you agree with, you never think about. You know? Think about it. You don't think about if you like tea or coffee. The things that you do, you get up and brush your teeth or whatever it is that you do normally, you agree with it. You don't think about it. The things that you think about are the things that you don't agree with it. So that's why when the brain suggests something and you show your disagreement with it, it keeps coming back. When you give it a conclusion as an agreement, then it shuts down. Hence, ERP. The purpose is to let the brain think that, okay, you're right, I'm gay. So the crazy one accepts the fact that he has won. But in fact, the brain has no role in your life and has no control about you. Why? Because we all live with our vetoes and choices. So it doesn't matter who calls me an asshole in the street, who gives me a certain kind of a label of any kind, or if my brain gives me any kind of a suggestion of anything of my interest that is not true, that is not in line with my value. Once I simply allow them to express themselves without commenting on it any negatively, then they shut up because they're stupid. And since there is no merits to it to begin with, all they want is satisfaction of recognition that, oh, they're right. You know, I've seen people that they always want to be right, so they argue even though when they're wrong. That's the brain. So give the brain a conclusion and the brain will shut down. And that's how you deal with these intrusive thoughts that constantly show up and never let go because you don't let go. And remember, any suggestion, anything in life that you do that you agree with, that is your normal norm that you do during the day, you don't think about. You always think about the things that you don't agree with. So once you give it a conclusion as an agreement, that's the end of the brain trying to convince you of something that you're not, and that shuts down. I hope that would be a certain clarification for why this business of acceptance is being promoted, because it doesn't mean that you accept what the brain says. It just means you accept that the brain can say whatever it wants, and there's no argument here. So you give it a conclusion, and brain shuts up. Hope that would be helpful to you, and I'll talk to you soon about these subjects after station identification. I'll be right back. All right, we're back. Well, I started the little episode that I wanted to talk to you about because we didn't have too many people here. And until some of you show up, I thought I'd give it content and hopefully I can cut that and put it as a standalone video for your use at your leisure. Now, right now, we have one person here, but I haven't had any comments. I haven't had any questions. There's one here, AKS. What? Miasmin. This is always a pleasure listening to you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Help me out to remember and let me know your age, gender, where you're tuning in from. So at least I know a little bit about you, that you've been kind enough to join us. Usually, when we have a live stream, we have many people here. I mean, not usually, in the past. Lately, though, when we have a live stream, it's like YouTube doesn't let anybody know that we're live, alive or live. So I hope that somehow we get over this glitch and wonder. Well, by the way, guys, or Guy, because there's only one person here, I'm in the process of moving everything to Rumble. We'll have our YouTube channel here as the main, um, venue platform. However, two channels are created in Rumble. One is about the breakup and thoughts, consciousness, fear, desire, ego. And the other one is exclusively about OCD, intrusive thoughts, HOCD, and so on. So you may want to join Rumble and take a look at our channel there. Hopefully, we'll have more of a viewers or subscribers there. I have seen many channels who tend to discuss what we're discussing here with 800,000 subscribers. Somehow, we have over 3,000 videos on this channel on different topics such as breakups, false consciousness, fear, desire, ego. Many hundred, about 700 videos on OCD, OCD subsets, and HOCD and intrusive thoughts. Yet we have only 28,000 subscribers. To me, is something fishy here. It doesn't jive. So, I mean, with the quality of videos that we have, and I'm unanimous on that, based on many, many thousands over the years of testimonials from you guys and your opinion about the quality of the videos, we should have had lot more, hundreds and hundreds of thousands subscribers more. So I'm not really sure how it has turned out that we have just 28,000 after 13 years of, or maybe 11 years of activities and efforts. Anyhow, having said all that, AKS, if you wouldn't mind, I'm still hoping to hear from you as far as your age, gender, and where you're tuning in from. Miasmin. And as you know, we don't have a lecture in this live stream, although tonight I did start it with about half an hour of I don't know, yeah, about half an hour of discussion about one topic, which hopefully I'd be able to turn it into one standalone videos, especially that I did it on a better resolution camera while we were using this laptop. So hopefully I'll see if I can edit it and add that informative video, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. Brett Norris is here, says hi, Meran. Hello, Brett. Do me a favor, Brett. Let me know, remind me of age, gender, and where you're tuning in from. I'd appreciate that. AKS Miasmin seems to not be here because I've asked him the same thing, but he hasn't, informed us of that. Just let me know your age, gender, where you're tuning in from, because I don't necessarily remember all the time. 27 male Edmonton. Thank you for that, Brett. I appreciate that. So, you guys, if you have any question, fire up. We've been here about 42 minutes. I'll be here another 15, and we'll call it a night, because looks like we're not that popular tonight. Even though it's Friday night, I expect people are not necessarily all going out, but somehow I guess we're not circulating, and people don't know that we're live, or alive for that matter. So, for heaven's sakes, there are two people here. Let me know who are these two. One, we know Brett. So, Brett, by the way, how's the weather in Edmonton? It must be cold now, is it? You told me you were in school before. Brett, it's been a long time, I guess, yeah? Because I don't remember vividly that, any background on your participation. But I am familiar with the last name, the Norris. I do remember your name, but not the way I would have liked to. Like, I just can't place it, what we talked about, and so on. And Brett says it's not too bad tonight. Oh, it's not too bad right now. Okay. We are getting a little bit cold here, but not as cold as, as I remember it. Brett said, yeah, just about trying to study hard. Yeah, I think I do now remember something, at least on that topic. I've had many discussions before, and I'm sure one of them must have been you. Says, I just in my finals right now. Ah, good. So you're almost to the finish line. That's very good. Says, I'm actually from Surrey, but here in Edmonton for school. I see. I take it you're going to university then. You say finals. Yeah, okay. I guess your semester finishes before January, or is it just uh, exam times and then you continue in mid-January, the same term, the same semester? I made a concoction tonight. It's a pretty good, delicious drink, but a little bit of a twist in taste, because I added something I had never added it before, and that has quite of a recognizable punch. Taste, and that actually ruins the taste of the whole amazing stuff in here. I've got 5 mushrooms here, the powder. I've cocoa and 5 mushroom mix. I've got a bit of honey and 1 extra spoon of cocoa, pure 100% cocoa. It's usually very delicious drink and very nutritious because of the 5 mushrooms. Lion's mane and all the other good stuff. But I also added moringa powder, moringa leaf powder. That was a mistake. It's very good for you, but the taste does affect the good taste of this thing. But overall, it's still okay. It's kind of, it's kind of the rest of the taste kind of hides the taste of the moringa. I think moringa is better to be used in shakes and smoothies, which there's so much more taste in there rather than in this one. Because although it's still a delicious drink, but it has that moringa smell that is not that pleasant. And it's got to be very careful when you drink out of these Yeti cups because they, for heaven's sake, they keep the heat for 24 hours and they just don't let it be cool, which is great for cold nights and you want to take a cup of tea with you or something, cup of drink. Brett says, doesn't it taste good? It tastes good overall, but I do smell the moringa in there. And the smell of moringa is not necessarily that complimentary because it's very greenish, very vegetable-y, and vegetable of some kind that, it's just not your choice of taste or smell. I mean, if I was a horse, I'd probably enjoy it. I love horses, so I could be a horse. All right. And it says, do you find the mushrooms effective? I don't know. I just know that it's got lots of good things in it. It's lion's mane. It's, let me see. Let me bring the box here. It's I don't know. It doesn't say. uh, I thought the name of them are here, but I can't see them. Interesting. Lion's mane, cordyceps, turkey tail, chaga, and reishi. And crine, no, yeah. Reishi, chaga, turkey tail, all the cordyceps and lion's mane. All the mushrooms that I always wanted to try because I've heard so much about these things. I don't taste anything, but it's a good drink when I put it in my cocoa, and because I have another powder that is got all these 5 mushroom in it, and it's a form of a drink. Like you put the powder in a hot water, then it's a drink. But I've added this other ones to it, and a little honey, and so on. Hmm. Genostemma is organic harmonic. What is it? Certified become. Okay, let's see. No, I've never tried that. I don't know what it is good for actually. It says uses and side effects. A plant that grows wild in many parts of Asia, that's sometimes called southern ginseng or miracle plant. Hmm, interesting. Which foods contain ginostemma? What is the Chinese herb of immortality? It says ginostemma pentaphylium is indeed a perennial creeping in the Ginostemma genus. Jesus, so many mouthful of words. Is a part of family that includes cucumbers, gourd, and melons. It's a popular name for G. pentaphylium. Okay, what about it? Yeah, I haven't tried it. I'll read on it later. Hmm. Yeah, they come in form of pills too, Brett, lion's mane, but these are like in powder. Birthal Barua says, male 35 India. Say hello, Mary. Hello, Birthal. And Brett says, yeah, I don't know. I heard about it years ago. Bought some used to make it. So it has a bitter taste of steep too long. If steep too long, yeah. And Birthal says, how to complete remove fear. And Brett says, I just wish I could take a drug so I could hyper focus 24/7. No, 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 no. The best thing to that for that is have a good night's sleep and then do your best by trying to picture what you're reading because pictures and pictorials are the roots of our understanding and communication. If you look at the million years ago caves, you can see drawings because pictures seem to be the best way of communicating at the time when we had no speech abilities. So that's our default. That's why when you say picture, it makes you understand much better than just words because you turn the words into pictures and then you understand them. So when you read, try to picture what you're reading. Like what you're reading describes a certain things and through pictures. For example, when you're reading a book says the chevalier comes with his white horse, you can see that white horse chevalier is riding it. That's how you remember the story. You don't remember words, you remember what the words are describing as an action being done. She was so beautiful, her hair was I don't know, shiny like what, and she was standing on the balcony and she let her hair down. So all these other things, so she can be rescued or whatever. So you can see all these things. So everything turns into pictorial. So when you're reading something, try to picture it, and then with the picture, you will have a better, perhaps, way of remembering what you're reading, and so on. Rita says, I ignore fear, but it comes every time. 4 steps is not working for fear. Yeah, but what are you fearful of? In my case, fear of something going bad going to happen. Oh, that's intrusive thoughts. Yeah, it's not that 4 steps is going to remove that. First step is going to make you see that is a thought, and you deal with it like intrusive thoughts. And the brain will stop making those fictitious signals for fear. As long as you believe the fear, the signals continue, because the signal seems to be creating an emotion reaction with you. So that energy of the signal turns into a different energy, and that's what the brain sees as a recognition of its function and being invited to redo because it gets results back from it. But when you stop believing your brain and consider the brain an idiot, then you won't pay attention to it, and those signals will go to waste. And therefore it stops making it because it cannot represent its existence by creating something that nobody pays attention to. Nobody believes it. In an OCD is that one of the problems with OCD is that you believe your brain's uttering. Once you understand the brain has no intelligence, you stop believing it and you consider it a malfunctioning brain, a crazy apparatus, and there is no credibility in it, and the brain starts shutting down in that particular function because the jig is up. You've already raised its hand that, look, you're stupid, I'm not going to I'm not going to believe the fears that you're inducing in me. And of course, you have a probably overactive amygdala that is trying to protect you by creating these emotional danger signals that they don't exist just to protect you, but it's overdoing it, and you're falling for it rather than you take the leadership and train the brain by not giving credibility to it. Instead, you're affirming it by reacting to it as if they are real. You're believing the brain, and brain gets encouraged that it can continue because there's a sucker who believes what I will say, and I'm just a piece of shit. I don't even know what I'm doing, why I'm sending these signals. But he believes it. So I must be doing some wrong, some right. So you're encouraging the idiot brain to continue its stupidity, sending these signals because you can. It's like a signal through the Morse code, let's say in the war times, comes in and says something like the intergalactical ships arriving from outer space. And this soldier who is receiving this is understood, we will take precautions and we are ready for the intergalactic attacks. So when the other side, who's just sending bullshit stories, sees this receiver just responded as if his information is real and believed it, they'll keep sending. They play the game. But if the soldier says, stop the bullshit, otherwise we'll have you traced, they'll stop. So you believing your brain, you'll encourage your brain to think, oh, then I'm correct. So I should be continuing protecting my master. Because it thinks it's protecting you by these signals. But when you just simply show it that, look, cool it, it's all right, I understand, thank you very much, but nothing's happening. By not paying attention to it, you're giving the signal to it that, look, stop, that's unnecessary, pretty much. All right, guys, it's 1 hour that we're here, and we don't have that many people. We've said a few things that we needed to say. So it's time for me to say, I love you all. Thank you for being here, giving the opportunity to share a thing or two with you. I look forward to our next live stream. In the meantime, be good to yourself and to the others. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. Subscribe on my channel, visit my channel, and go through the videos that you might be interested in. Mind@seekstruth.com is making it one step away to talk to me one-on-one on Skype and discuss what's concerning you. I'll talk to you soon. But we too like the iceberg have 1,000 times bigger powers that is not visible. And we must. Why? Is it something we're rambling on and I expect you to accept it? Or is there actually another power within us? Would you come and help me out? Okay. What I want you to do is put your hands underneath my arms and just lift me up. There we go. Okay, now, that's my physical part, right? Same thing. Again, with that. Just want to see if there's any difference. Go ahead. Now, go ahead. Now, this, go ahead when you're ready.
Go ahead.
So you see, this is different than what he was doing, and I'm not really doing anything. You convinced?
Yeah.
So are you guys convinced that there is something other than, thank you. Thank you very much.